How many hours do you spend writing a week?
Not nearly enough.
Or when you're working on a project, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, again, it just sort of depends. There's one, the short film I'm working on, Cub, which is actually a sequel to a short that Jesse did. I've been writing on that one for probably 3 or 4 months now. But I mean, it's been, I mean, I don't think I've done anything for a couple, take a month or so off and then end up writing 5 or 6 pages and keep 2 of those. I mean, it just sort of depends. Especially with the apocalypse now, my baby boy, my 8-year-old at home takes up a lot of my time too.
Everyone's a little distracted right now.
Yeah. Everyone, the world's a bit different. So not nearly as much as I would like. I was going to try and do a thing like Jesse did, where he was writing a page a day. I'm like, I'm going to do that. And that lasted for like a half a day. I'm like, balls.
What about Kill Giggles though? You did put days and days and days.
You said
and
300 pages.
Yeah, I mean, I spent probably about 3 years working on that script, and I mean, there was a point where I went out to one of my friends had a cabin at like Cleveland, North Carolina, somewhere just tiny little burg out in the middle of nowhere. Went and spent a weekend out of the cabin in the woods. I'm like, this can only
That's a
end
perfect place to write.
Yeah. I'm like, this is gonna end well. I had to use the outhouse outside. Like November, it was fucking cold. But I mean, I probably wrote maybe like 50, 60 pages in that weekend. So I mean,
sure.
and then ended up cutting most of those when we excised the script. So I mean, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just how much or how obsessed I get about the idea at the time.
Right.
And you had said earlier too that you like to get things. I guess you're getting them on paper so you can get them out of your head to make room for the next thing. Mm. That's part of your madness to your method, I guess, right?
Yeah. So I have to write everything out. Like I can't write at a computer. The little blinking cursor just sits there taunting me. So I mean, I still write everything out. I've got just drawers and boxes of.
You handwrite it all?
Yeah. I've got just notepads and pens. I mean, I've got to write everything. I take notes on the phone and stuff like that. But still, I mean, I'll write everything out by hand. I wrote the Kill Giggle script out, most of it by hand, and then typed everything and then made all the revisions and edits from there. So. Wow. Yeah, I'm kind of, but to me, there's just something palpable about having the pen in my hand and putting the pen to the paper and then creating literally something out of air that, that didn't exist before that. Like, I mean, the screen is nice, but it's just zeros and ones floating in a cloud somewhere. The piece of paper with my writing in front of me, that's what I've got.
That's cool. I'm all digital now.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the world itself is, so it's.
I just sit there and, I mean, I did, like, my first screenplay, which was a feature-length screenplay I wrote with another guy, a friend of mine in L.A.
Nice.
It was a science fiction screenplay. I had a dream. I was dreaming, like, these crazy, I have pretty vivid dreams anyway. I was having these really crazy, detailed dreams about this idea, and for about 3 hours, I couldn't sleep, so I just got up at like 3:30 in the morning and just wrote down like 6 pages of all these notes of what my dreams were about.
Right.
And it turned into a cool screenplay.
That's awesome.
It was the first one, so I need to go back and rewrite it with him, and I think it's still a good story. But that's the only time I've actually handwritten. Well, actually, when I wrote that one, we wrote out all the scenes and stuff by hand too on sticky notes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Fuck this!" They kept falling off, and so now I've made templates for all my scenes and stuff. It's all digital, so I can go in and write my paradigm out on a digital template, and then do all my scenes on a digital template, and then I write all the backstories for the characters, and I'll actually go in and start writing the script once all that's finished. Mm-hmm. And it's just, for me, that's a lot. I'm just really analytical, I guess, in some ways, and I like to be structured and organized, so it helps me. And it was a pain in the ass when 15 of those sticky notes would fall off that storyboard. I'm like,
wait,
oh my God, where were these at? Where did these go? But I know, like with me and a lot of other writers I've talked to, like when you sit down and start writing, I guess by hand or typing or whatever, when you start writing the script, mm-hmm. a lot of the stuff that you're writing, it's almost like it's not you writing it. It's almost like it's your subconscious creating this story that hasn't existed. Mm-hmm. Even when you're writing out the paradigm or figuring out the structure or the scenes, even when you're writing the scenes, it's still like you almost feel like you're not writing it.
Well, you're playing
just
God.
Channeling it or something.
Yeah, you're playing God. You're creating a world that did not exist before. So yeah, I mean, you're making something out of nothing, even if it's still just on paper.
It's hard to describe that experience too. It's really fascinating.
I like how you were talking about that, because when I write, generally, like, it's not every day, but if I've got something I'm gonna write, I'll, like he says, like, the best way I can do it is I at least have to do a page a day. But I'll write notes and stuff and kind of have a vague notion where I'm going, but really it's just sort of like, okay, it's my time for an hour. I'm going to open up this portal to chaos and just kind of see what happens. It's sort of like waiting for things to happen. I don't know what's going to happen next necessarily. I know kind of where I kind of want to go, and then it just happens. It's a very strange thing, you know.
Yeah, I'll have like my plot points already written, or at least a really good idea of what they are. Mm-hmm. So like when I'm writing, I have a direction I'm going, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. I'm not sure how these characters. I know the characters, I know their backstory, so I know what their personalities are like. But it's almost like they get themselves there.
Oh yeah, they do.
Which is really crazy.
Like, I mean, I think any self-respecting writer is schizophrenic to a certain degree, and I think you kind of have to be, because I mean, you're not just writing for what I don't write like what would Jaysen Buterin say in this position. Like, it's not me. It's Tommy DeSantos, and his parents were killed, and it's like you have to put yourself in so many different mindsets, I think, to be able to accurately to make those characters more than just two-dimensional. I mean,
it's like you
to
feel
make them
them
larger than life. Yeah. So I mean, you have to be empathetic to a certain degree too. I mean, even no matter how twisted or chaotic or cruel or fantastical your creatures, your characters might be, you still have to be able to make them relatable to an audience somehow. So I mean, you have to be able to give them that depth. Little ticks, little idiosyncrasies they may do, things they may say, ways they may act. I mean, all sorts of little things like that make them much more than just a flat, a placeholder on screen, basically.
Right. Yeah. Just something just to get you through the story. Mm-hmm. The best way I can describe that feeling of writing is like if you read a really good book and you really you feel like you're almost the character in the book, or you really relate to those characters in the book. It has a lot to do with empathy, like you say. It's like a mirror neuron type thing. But or if you watch a really good movie and you feel like you're in that movie, like you're really just completely enthralled in this film. It's the same thing in writing. It's like you'll be writing the story, and you're like, oh, that's how they got there. That's why this happened. Or wow, I didn't even see this. I didn't know this was going to happen. How did this happen?
Yeah. The little serendipitous
but I'm writing
moments
it.
that pop up, yeah. No, you're like, Well, then you have to question yourself, like, are you really writing it?
Yeah, it's like where are these ideas coming from?
Writing it through you? Yeah, I don't know. I always put autobiographical things in. I mean, I think every writer does, or a lot of writers do to certain points.
There's certain things that relate to you.
Oh yeah, and I had done that for a long time, like with names in the Hot Pink Jesus trilogy. Like I had like family names and all sorts of stuff like that.
Do the same
little
thing.
Events, but with Kill Giggles, like there's a couple of scenes in that film that are just lifted straight out of my life, damn near verbatim. Our male and female lead meet up, and they meet up in a bar and spend an amorous night together. And then the amorous night turns into an amorous day, and then they leave and go get pizza. And that's pretty much how I met my wife 20 years ago. Almost
cool.
to the T, yeah. We don't have an Emo's Pizza here in North Carolina. That makes me sad. But there's that, and there's a moment that happens in a Mexican restaurant where a clown comes in making balloons, and the character freaks out and threatens to stab it in the throat with its fucking fork. And that actually happened to me when I helped my friend move. So there's all these, but I tend to put all these little things into my movies just as, I don't know, little homages, little nods. I was lucky enough to actually put my mom. She has an appearance in Kill Giggles.
Oh, that's cool.
My son has a cameo in Kill. We put everybody in fucking Kill. My son, my mom-in-law. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of people in there. But so that was nice and rewarding for me, was to be able to just sort of pay homage, pay thanks to these people and stuff like that, to be able to put them in the movie. Because again, Kill Giggles is something I've been working years for, and it's something I'm extremely proud of. So once this quarantine fog is lifted, we're gonna hit the ground running, but we're gonna send in the clowns to die, and it's gonna make me happy. Makes me happy.